Hey, welcome to Discovering More. My name is Ethan Lumen, one of the pastors here at Peace Church in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And we're following up on our series, Risking Relationship. We're looking at how we can risk our politics as Christians for the sake of deeper relationships and a better community. So we looked at some of those biblical passages that deal with how Christians should relate to the government, and the overwhelming consensus of the New Testament, from Jesus to Peter to Paul, all men who were executed by the government, is to respect the government, submit or be subject to, and the word there is really to get yourself in order, okay? Be ordered properly in your relationship to the government, because the government has the responsibility of maintaining justice and righteousness for all people, and restraining bad behavior. And we kind of talked about how governments have not always been great at that. And that gives us a pause to say, especially read the Old Testament, God is oftentimes calling out corrupt governments, not only the people of Israel and the corruption in their governments, but other nations and how their governments have given into greed and selfishness and all sorts of stuff. We also talked a little bit about how, as Americans, we have a unique responsibility in a representative republic to be engaged in politics. And I think it begins with local politics too. I think we need to be people who care about our communities, who show up for our communities. And in Philippians chapter 1, it says, be citizens worthy of the gospel. Behave as citizens worthy of the gospel. Our lives have been changed as Christians. We believe that Jesus has given his life for us, and he's given us a home in heaven forever. And this is our ultimate orientation as Christians, is that we have a home forever with Christ. Now, for some, that could make us think, well, if we have a home forever with Christ, then it doesn't matter what happens here. We can do whatever we want here. We can take care of this place however we want. We can, pursue whatever goals we want. But in reality, knowing that we have a home forever with Jesus, I think it can make us more invested in the here and now, in this place that we've been given, especially since Jesus said he's coming back to this place. Jesus said that it's like the master of the house who's gone away and he's left his servants in charge. God has left us here on earth. God could have worked this way. We say, like sometimes Christians say, believe in Jesus so you go to heaven when you die. Well, you believe in Jesus already, but he hasn't taken you to heaven yet. So there's something for us to do here. And I think a big part of that is caring for the things that we've been given. And we've all been given things. I think we're so overwhelmed actually with the things we've been given and this life we've been given and the structure we've inherited, that sometimes we get overwhelmed to the point where we don't do anything, where we kind of check out of reality. We see epidemics of loneliness. We see, drug use on the rise. I think we're apt to disconnect from our communities, unfortunately. But I think that's, when we talk about risking our politics, I think part of that means being willing to be committed to a place. Like your town needs you, your city needs you, your neighborhood needs you. Even if it's just as simple as, taking care of your yard, picking up the trash outside of your house, that's a small step. And we all have these responsibilities to those around us. And so we can think big picture and say, we're subject to the government. We submit ourselves to the Constitution, the rules of our community, all these big things. And I think that's baseline. But I think as Christians, we have the calling from God to care about the place we've been given. So Christians have existed and thrived under every form of government known to man. And in fact, the church is growing right now in China under a communist government. The church is growing in the Middle East under Islamic rule. The church grew under a pagan government in Rome. And so we see all of these governments doesn't matter for the church. For the church to be the church, we need to submit to the one true Lord, the one true King, that's Jesus. and figure out a way to contribute to our communities. Like the early church, they saw babies being abandoned on the sides of mountains, because their parents didn't want them, and so they stepped in and started caring for those that were unwanted by society. And it made a difference. Like, people took note of what Christians were doing. They had this morality, this ethic around sexuality, where there wasn't abuse, there wasn't misuse, there wasn't all the immorality that surrounded all these other nations. And people were curious, like, one man, one woman for life? Chastity, celibacy, honoring other people, not abusing other people. Like, it threw off the people who weren't Christians so much but they were compelled. And I think as Christians today, it's important for us to proclaim what's right, sure, but I think it's almost more important for us to do what's right. So I guess maybe that could be our word for today as we seek to discover more. What are the things that God's put in your power to do? Whether it's cleaning up the roads around you, whether it's running for local office, whether it's just calling your senator or governor. Maybe you're passionate about an issue that your community is facing. And don't just step back and say, well, somebody else can do that. Somebody else can take care of that. Well, what if you're supposed to be that somebody else that's supposed to step up? And Christians don't need to be afraid of even serving in the government, running for political office. We should be the most humble, gracious, service-oriented politicians out there. People willing to put the needs of others first and not be greedy or seeking after selfish gain. So let this be a word of encouragement that you have a difference to make in your community. And we have an earthly kingdom that we need to be part of as people, but we have a heavenly kingdom that we've been invited into, and we have our ultimate hope in that. So I hope this whole series, as we unfold this Risking Relationship series, I hope it helps you, work through maybe some of those relationship issues that maybe you're struggling with, or maybe looking for more wisdom on. Or maybe even just to think about in general. Maybe you haven't thought about how does faith and politics interact. Just spend some time praying about it and reading about it. And we're going to step into parenting and dating and marriage and coworkers, all this kind of stuff. And we're going to see that God has something to say about every single one of our relationships. But we're going to see how all of them are centered in this idea that we know what love is because God first loved us. And because God first loved us, now we can love one another as we've first been loved. So I hope this is a blessing for you, wherever you might happen to be. And we'd love to hear maybe some of the relationship questions you have or some of the things you're struggling with around how to live out your faith in different relationships. So let us know. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.